Hello, and welcome to the FOLIO ecosystem, how to build a complete solution for your library. Today, you're going to hear from three librarians, Megan, Leah, and Stephanie, that's me, from three very different universities, and how we have implemented and now use FOLIO within our unique library ecosystem. And before we get started, we wanted to make sure we were on the same playing field with what is Folio and what is EBSCOfolio. Folio is an open source library services platform. It is a global community of academic librarians, development organizations, and service partners. It is built to support innovation. It is built to support change. EBSCOfolio, all three of the libraries presenting today are EBSCOfolio libraries, is the fully supported implementation of Folio with dedicated teams to develop, implement, support, and host Folio. EBSCOfolio supports integration with all that you see here and much, much more. And then you're going to be hearing the word ecosystem a lot. And in its simplest terms, an ecosystem is a community of group of living organisms that live in and interact with each other in a specific environment. And our agenda today is to give an overview of each institution's ecosystem. We're going to discuss the varied ways to handle setup, management, authentication, discovery, and linking needs. Throughout that, I hope you hear Folio's future and our wishes for Folio. And also at the end, we will have a Q&A. And without further ado, I'm going to hand this over to Megan.
Thank you, Stephanie. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Folio at East Central University. So East Central is in Oklahoma. So we were started as a normal school. So we were teaching teachers how to teach. We were founded in 1909, and we are part of the Regional University System of Oklahoma. And we have approximately 3,500 students. So at ECU, there's one library, the Linscheid Library, and our staff includes the library director, 5 librarians, 5 staff, and then a varying number of student assistants depending on our budget. So just to give you a bit of a background in how we came to Folio, we automated with InnoPack in 1992, and that was an innovative library product. And then we moved from InnoPack to Millennium, which was also innovative. And then we moved from Millennium to Sierra, and we were with Sierra until we moved to Folio, and we went live with Folio June 2nd of 2022. So we knew in the early spring, about February of 2021, that we needed to move to a new system. We were on servers that we were given warning they were no longer supported, and we had to do something. So we gathered our needs for what we would need with a new system. And from there, I reached out to vendors to try and get some chances to view their systems and see if they would match what we needed. And so I reached out to 5. We talked with 3 different vendors. And from there, we made our choice and we went with Folio. We had to consider both our needs and what system met our needs, and also what system we could afford. So in the end, Folio was our best option. So our implementation process was actually fairly easy. It was about 9 months. We started meeting in September as a group, almost all the librarians here and our team at Folio. And so we would meet weekly to discuss what we needed to do to set up Folio. And then we could also have individual meetings. So I was the librarian who was transferring all the data from Sierra to Folio. And so I had individual meetings with our implementation team simply because my fellow librarians didn't need to sit through that. And so we did meet individually as well. And we loaded our data multiple times. So it wasn't just putting it in the system once and you're done. It was, we would load the records and see how it went, and then we would do it again and again to make sure everything worked right. And we had about 3-4 months after our data was in that we could test to make sure everything worked right before we did our final load of data. And then we also had a month where we did some training, and then we went live. It was one day after we had originally decided we wanted to go live, but we chose to do that on purpose. So it worked quite well for us. There were some things we learned as we went through this process. One of those was project management. This was the biggest project any of the librarians currently at the library had ever had to take care of. And so we learned a lot about project management and sharing the work so that one person didn't get burnt out. We also learned that you really do need to ask questions if you don't understand what something means. It's much better to just ask the question early so you don't miss out on information later because you don't understand what's being said. It's important to be flexible when the unexpected happens. And you also need to fight for what you need. So we realized that some data that we could get in our Sierra item records wouldn't transfer the way we're hoping into Folio. And so our team worked with us to help us find a solution so we could still have that information. And it's important to do that so that your system fits your needs. And also we learned it's really important to make plans for when you go live. Most of the library did do that, but I was in charge of the whole project. And so I was so focused on making sure that everything went live that it didn't occur to me to make plans for my own department until right at the end. So then we had to do that very quickly. So it's important to know what you're going to do once you go live. And then as for hopes for the future of Folio, upgrades to Folio bring exciting new features every time we get a new upgrade, which happens about 3 times a year. So in the future, we are hoping for more ways to gather statistics, more features for periodicals, and more features for ILL. Our system, we did it pretty basically. We didn't do anything extra. We don't have any extra APIs or features because no one at our library really knows how to do that. So we just have gone with the basics. So we're hoping for some more things to come soon that will have those types of features. Now that's my presentation, so I will hand it over to Leah.
Thank you, Megan. Hello, everyone. My name is Leah Chaleva, and I am the Licensing and Acquisitions Librarian at Villanova University. We transitioned to Folio in January 2023, so are newer to the Folio community compared to my co-presenters. We are learning from our peers while building our own solutions as well, all enabled by Folio and the open source tools that we can use with it. Pictured in this first slide is the head of library technology at Villanova, Damian Katz, presenting at the second Folio Mid-Atlantic User Group meeting, which was hosted by Villanova University in October this year. A little bit more about where I come from. Villanova University is a medium-sized institution and was founded by Augustinians back in 1842. It is named after St. Thomas of Villanova, and the campus is located around 12 miles from Center City, Philadelphia. The most prominent feature on the campus is the St. Thomas of Villanova Church, dating back to 1883. You can see the tall spires on the left. Villanova offers a wide variety of undergraduate and graduate degrees and is ranked as an R2 institution, doctoral university with high research activity. We have a little over 50 librarians and our own library technology department. We have a big, primarily online collection, which serves the needs of our researchers and students and is growing at a good pace. We went live on FOLIO in January 2023, but started the journey back in 2021, when the ERM module went live. This is an outline of some of the milestones during Villanova's transition to FOLIO. I joined the library staff in August 2022, so was there for the final stretch, which went really well. A team of librarians were meeting on a regular basis with a highly knowledgeable and geographically dispersed EBSCO onboarding team. It felt that someone was working around the clock on tasks for us, since some of the development staff were in Sweden. Our onboarding leader was guiding us through the process and didn't skip a meeting, even when she came down with COVID. There were also weekly internal check-in meetings for the Villanova librarians to discuss testing, data inputs, and analyze outputs. Our dress rehearsal was in November 2022 and went really well. We had minimal interruption in only some of the services from December 20th to mid-January 2023. Examples of these services are account login, renewals of materials, requests through the automated ILL system between local universities. Because of how we have been on Viewfind since 2010, the patrons didn't see any difference in the catalog interface. FOLIO worked for us in the technical services really from the beginning. There wasn't an onerous amount of post-migration cleanup, which I have gone through at my previous job, where we migrated to Alma. I mentioned that our library uses Viewfind, but what is Viewfind? It's a library search interface used by over 100 libraries all over the world, which is open source like FOLIO. I had a picture in my very first slide of the man behind the project, my esteemed colleague Damian Katz. He was presenting on Viewfind at the second FOLIO Mid-Atlantic user group meeting to explain the benefits of using it to other librarians, and had a lively Q&A session. He is glad that the connection with FOLIO is so much better than it was with the proprietary Oracle-based catalog we had before. He and his library technology team, and really all of us at Resource Management and Discovery team, were and are very happy to work with the intuitive workflow-based catalog, which offers interconnected apps for navigating the well-structured data in FOLIO. This slide shows the search results powered by FOLIO now. Other than the main Viewfind integrations, we have implemented a number of different other FOLIO connections as well. With lipsticks for label printing, reshare for ILL, for patron and course data and panorama basics. I want to highlight the newly developed self-service and on-demand reporting available at Villanova University. As my colleague Susan Turkel aptly says, we're able to produce reports that include historical circulation data going back to the beginning of library automation at Villanova. The next slide shows the actual dashboard and the type of reports that were developed locally. As you can see, my colleagues can also run on-demand reports, but there are these canned ones that all of us are just able to select our values for and just download. My colleagues on the library technology team built this self-serve system in Viewfind and would be happy to share their code actually. We're really grateful that FOLIO has such an active and knowledgeable community, and we're doing our share. We have asked Karen for advice and help and really loved it that there were other libraries in the SIGs and Slack channels ready and willing to share their experience at fiscal close, rollover, and anytime we need them. I have put together some examples of the ways in which you're engaged, but I am sure I'm missing something. Too many things to keep track of. I personally just joined the new SIG 2 weeks ago, and I'm working on an API integration between FOLIO and EBSCOnet in the start of 2024, so that we have it in place for our next renewals. We're thinking about financial integrations and improvements in our workflow on a weekly basis. FOLIO allows us to retire our spreadsheets and move into the future. Back to you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Leah, and thank you, Megan, for both of you sharing what you're doing with Folio ecosystem within your own personal ecosystem. And I think it's really neat to see the different libraries working together and doing different things and being able to take advantage of Folio regardless of the size of libraries. So a little bit about Cairn University. We're very different than both of the previous universities that were being shown. And I think, as I just said, I think that that's really important for what Folio is. We are small, but we don't like to use that adjective. We kind of like to say that we're committed and we're intentional. And the library is committed to our physical as well as our e-collection. And that brought us to select EBSCO Folio back in 2021. And we were a Sierra library before and went live on Innovative back in 2001. And we went live on Full Folio on June 28th, 2022. I like to say I like to point this out, that it's the same day back on May 10th, 2021, that we projected that we would go live during our kickoff meeting. One of the things that makes Folio is it's an ever improving world. It really is a living, breathing ecosystem in my mind. And if you look here, these are just the releases that we've gone through since we went live, and does not include the releases that we saw as we were implementing, which were about 2 or 3 releases. And coming soon is Poppy, and there's a lot of new improvements. And each of these releases, these aren't bug fix releases, these aren't little things, these are big releases. These make changes that are significant to Folio each and every time. And in that, the Folio ecosystem, it's constantly changing. And how it's built is really that there's never one way to do things. And it allows us libraries and us librarians to explore and find the best workflow, the best solution, the best process for our ecosystem. And options galore. And it's really, we have to learn, I had to learn how to reframe my mind when I went to do a problem or when we went to implement, because it's not about what we have to do, it's what can we do. And isn't that the point of Folio, is that it fits within and enhances our library's ecosystem? And I like to say, and I truly believe it's any library ecosystem. So some of what Cairn has implemented, we've already talked about this before in the earlier presentations, but from spine labels and Gobi ordering and EBSCOnet, we've implemented that. But I really want to point out the NSIP and APIs that we've been able to do. And it's not as if these weren't able to be done under our old library system. They just came with a monetary cost that was not sustainable. But NSIP, APIs, all of that is part of the Folio ecosystem, meaning it's no additional cost for us to get these set up. And both of these are things that we've been able to implement with Folio, as well as our EDS with patron empowerment. We were EDS since 2012, but bringing the patron empowerment, which is the Folio side, into EDS has really been a smooth transition. And we didn't have to train our patrons on these added functions. They just are able to deal with it. It's like fish in water, really. And I want to bring up the bulk edit app, which came out in Morning Glory, and it's wonderful for edits, and it's constantly being built out and added to in each subsequent release. But one of the things we've found with bulk edit is it's an excellent way to pull records into Excel, and that's been beneficial for us. And there's so many other things that we've done. But one of the problems at Cairn is we kind of just do, and we forget to take note of all that we're doing. But we do care about discovery. And discovery is significant for us. It should be significant for everybody, because if our patrons cannot find our resources, then what are we doing here? And one of the things we did for discovery when we went live with Folio is Karen chose, and I want to highlight that word chose, to have our physical collection represented within our inventory app and our e-collection within our e-holdings app. And for discovery, what happens is when a patron comes and clicks on the catalog only, they're searching actually two catalogs. The first one is our inventory app, and the second one is our e-holdings app. And then if you look down at our library location, you can see our physical as well as our electronic all together in one place for our patrons. Once they discover, they need to be able to authenticate. And we've been Open Athens since 2017 using the Google G Suite, which has been wonderful, but it's limited to current students, faculty, and staff. And we really struggled with finding a good solution for our non-current students, faculty, and staff who should still have access to our resources. So with Folio, we were able to come up with a really slick solution where we create accounts for our patrons with a username and password. Then, when they need to log in, they select the second option for the Folio account. That goes into, it gives a check saying, yes, they are actual Folio users. And then it pushes into Open Athens, where we have a Folio connector created with attributes and permissions. And then from there, they then are granted access to the resources that they are allowed to have access to. And what's nice is every user now has a personal Folio account, and we don't have generic logins, and that's a good thing all around. I like to make things sound very sunny and happy, but there are cloudy days, and we did struggle with our cataloging workflow. Cataloging, you have two options right now in Folio. You either pull it into Folio from OCLC, or you push it into Folio from OCLC. And for us, neither of those were good solutions. And I've listed a couple of the problems here. And we tried many things, and we shifted our workflow. We shifted how we were creating orders and how we were creating instances and holdings and items, but nothing was just right until the Morning Glory release. And we decided to do some training with the amazing, phenomenal Molly Driscoll in January 2023. We're about 6 months on Folio. And we were looking at this issue and trying to come up with a common or a good solution. And we were trying to think through, could we find a common match point? And Molly thought through and said, well, in the Morning Glory release, the PO line number is now linked in your instance, holding, and item at time of creating your order. So what if we use the POL as a match point? So we created some profiles. Now I'm going through this, making it seem like it was this easy thing. I have a 40-minute presentation just on how we went about doing this work. But we created our mapping, action, match, and job. And then we cataloged as before, and it actually worked. In OCLC, we did our 949 string to update data points in the instance, holding, item, and sometimes we were creating new data to put into the holding and item or instance. We save as a batch file, and then we would load it into Folio via data import. Now, it might seem like a lot of extra work here, but it really was streamlining our process. And the other part is there is work being done to make OCLC a lot more efficient, and that's a good thing on the Folio side. So here's our data import, and you can see this is our main job that we use. But I also went and when we were doing this, realized some things weren't working just right. So we've created another job profile for no instance. And we've also done a job profile for matching on other pieces of the item. So what is the coolest thing? Well, with Folio, what may be an issue or not available today will not continue to be an issue or not available in the future. And I hope you've heard that through our presentations. And so I've listed some of my examples. But if you go up to any folio library, I bet you they would have a different list because this isn't exhaustive at all. These are just a few examples of all of the things that are happening in folio all the time. And one of the frequently asked questions I get as being a previous Sierra library is, don't you miss create lists? And actually the answer is no. But when you think about a Sierra library, really part of our ecosystem was create lists. I was in create lists all the time in order to get our data in all different ways. But in Folio, data is not bound in one function. But I have struggled with one thing, and it's to pull records out from archive. But I think, and I know, that this should be doable via a query search or another way. And really, I just need to ask the community, because just to stop and think through options typically leads to a solution today. And if it's not a solution for today, it's something as you work with the community comes into Folio in the future. And isn't that really the best problem to have? That keeping up and finding time to challenge and think through everything it's just a kind of a cool thing to ponder. And I believe it's the power of the folio ecosystem, and it's what makes then how you can bring the folio ecosystem and the library, and we're then challenged to think through and think about possibilities and not just staying at the status quo. And it's us pushing together to think and challenge. And I believe it's a win-win for all, and we're better off, and we're better libraries, better servers of our community. And speaking of community, Leah talked about this already, but the Folio community is all Folio users. It doesn't matter what vendor, if you're on a vendor, we're all working together as a group to make this better and to make our libraries better. And she already mentioned the regional groups. So Mid-Atlantic user group, it actually grew threefold from last year to this year, which is really exciting. And then you have the EBSCO Folio community with EBSCO Connect and the EBSCO Users Group, which is meeting in April with a Folio Day. And really, there's a reason why we have bees everywhere, because it really is a hub of excitement and work, and we work together to make something better. And I really hope through our presentations today that you understand that Folio is not a one size fits all, and that the possibility of what we can do really is limitless, and it helps for all of us. So now we're going to move into questions, and we thank you for your time.